So my name is Vicki Gold, and I am a retired physical therapist. I had been in the field, both academic and clinical, for more than 50 years. But as I like to say, I'm retired from hands-on physical therapy, but certainly not retired from still trying to make a difference in people's lives. Part of my background, besides my traditional medical training, is work with yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, Alexander, and Feldenkrais, along with some other personal growth and development trainings and a little bit of cognitive therapy work. So the program that I'll be presenting to you today, when it's done in a full training, includes a lot of these elements. Next slide. So my company is TheraFitness, TheraFitness Inc., and it distributes programs and products that feature the ABC system that we're going to cover today. And my hope is that you'll be so inspired by what's possible with it that you'll be in touch with me after this program, and we'll talk about how you can use it in your life and in your facility. So the learning objectives for today is for you to understand the risks associated with poor posture, poor body mechanics, and stress. You'll be able to identify the 5 components of the ABC mind-body system. I'm going to give you a head start. It's alignment, breathing, centering, slow motion, and the basic moves. So that's your head start. And we're going to explain the benefits of diaphragmatic breathing and slow, prolonged exhalations. And finally, look at the value of imagery for achieving safer and more efficient functioning. Next. So I'm not much for statistics, and plus I wanted to leave as much of today's presentation as possible for giving you some actual experience of the ABC system. And most of you probably know already that nursing assistants have one of the highest numbers of days away from work cases. So in 2020, it was over 96,000, and you can imagine that 2022, that number has only gone up. The National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health has said that the strongest or the greatest hazards that they have identified are back injuries and stress. Again, this is probably not news to you. Next. So I did do get some research for you, and this is a study that was done at the University of Massachusetts in Lowell. You'll see it in your references, and it's one of the more extensive studies looking at the effects of stress and ways to approach it. I believe it was particularly in nursing homes. Next. This diagram is taken from that University of Massachusetts study, and I'm not going to go into details here. You can look at this on your own. Like I said, you could probably have created this yourselves, looking at all the different factors that may negatively affect a nursing home if the well-being of the staff is not looked after. Next. So, mind-body effects of poor posture. At this point, we're going to start a little experiential activity. So I'm going to ask you to slouch down in your chairs. So take a moment. I really want you to get this experience. So just slouch down. And when you've gotten yourself into a good slouch, if there is such a thing, I'd like you to just take one of your arms and raise it up as high as you can, close to your head, and just see what that feels like. And then lower it down. Turn your head to one side. Again, staying in that slouch position, and get a sense of how that feels. And come back to your center. And now, again, in your very slouched position, take a deep breath in through your nose and get a sense of how that feels. Now, I'm going to have you sit up straight. I'd like you to get your hips all the way back in your chair. I mean, assuming that you're not in a recliner. So all the way back, all the way back in your chair. And let your shoulders kind of drop down and back. Get that nice lengthened posture. Take a few breaths. Let your body adjust to this straighter position. And now let's do the movements again. So whichever arm you raised up before, do that again. Just get a sense of whether it feels any different than it did the first time. Lower it down. Do the turning position with your head again. And return to the center. And finally, take a nice deep breath in through your nose. And exhale. So unfortunately, I can't see all of you, but if you're like the average person, when I do this exercise, you feel a greater ease of going through a fuller range of motion. So two more things about the importance of good postural alignment. I tell this story about a patient that I had once who was sitting in the waiting room about 15 minutes early for her appointment. And she was slouched in the waiting room chair, like most patients tend to be. And I asked her, "What's your problem?" And she goes to try to lift her arm up, and you could see her face just tighten up in pain. "I can't raise my arm." And at that point, I had her sit back in the chair, like I've had you do. I put a towel roll, created a little lumbar support, low back support for her, got her arms rested on the armrest of the chair. I also put a pillow across her lap so her arms had a lot of support. And I said to her, "Just wait for me here, and just do some deep breathing while you're waiting for me." About 15 minutes later, I returned to the patient and something made me ask her, "Tell me what your problem was again." And her arm shot straight up. So, I mean, that was part of one of my many aha moments with, what became the ABC system. And the final example that I like to use about the importance or the value of having good postural alignment is a hinge on a door. And I say, when you think of a hinge or you look at a hinge, if it's well aligned, the door will open and close all the way. It won't creak, hopefully, and it won't break down. But if you have the slightest bit of misalignment in this hinge, first of all, the door probably will not open and close all the way. It's probably going to make some real squeaky noises, and chances are it's not going to last as long. Now, that's a simple hinge. There are almost no simple hinges in the body. I think the ones you'll know are the ones at the ends of your fingertip. What that means is that the slightest alignment or poor postural alignment can have many effects on how our whole body functions, how the joints in the body function. You think of the exercise we just did with the head turning. Imagine what a difference it might make when you are driving. I've had patients and participants in my programs comment that now that they're doing their alignment exercise, when they go to change lanes, they are able to turn their heads further. So you're talking about increased function and flexibility. I hope you also notice that by sitting up straight, having better postural alignment, that you could take a deeper breath. That becomes especially important for people who may have some type of be compromised in some kind of respiratory capacity. Digestion, there's more room for the organs to function. And So I think that gives you a little bit of an idea of how posture can affect the body, poor posture. Next. Now your mind is also affected by poor posture. And here are two studies. One of them found that erect posture was associated with improved mood and memory recall. And I can imagine that being important for you and for the people you work with. And this other study says poor posture may be an indication of poor self-esteem or depression. And this presents an interesting dilemma because I have, since I've been working with trying to improve people's posture, I've had situations where people may have had poor self-esteem or something that caused them to not be, up and open and positive and confident, and they actually have trouble going into a better postural alignment because of a fear that they might look snobby, too aloof. So being able to recognize how posture and the mind, the psyche are related is helpful when, well, for me anyway, when I'm doing trainings and I'm trying to tell people it's so important to get good postural alignment. Okay, next. And stress. The study that I refer to here is a large discussion of so many of the systems of the body that are negatively affected by stress. And, you're all medical professionals, so you could probably write this yourselves, but I found it very interesting. And then there's a woman, a nutritional psychologist named Kimberly Wilson. And I never thought of nutritional psychology, but I give you a reference of an interview that she had done, and it was just fascinating to listen to and took my awareness of the mind-body link to a whole new level. So you'll have that as a reference. Next. So here's the system. And it wasn't until after I was already cooking with this ABC thing that I realized that it's called a mnemonic, and you will find research that talks about how mnemonics make learning important material easier. So with all those mind-body trainings that I had, I said I need a way to bring those more esoteric concepts to a simple ABC system. And that's how we got alignment and breathing and centering, slow motion, and the basic moves. And you will see in the next slide that when I do a longer presentation, every one of the elements of the ABC system is broken down into what is it, why is it important, how do you achieve it. So I'm going to focus today on the how do you achieve it portion. And I may have done this already, but it bears repeating. For getting good postural alignment, using that mental imagery or that sense of lengthening and opening is an easy way to start getting your body into better postural alignment. If you think of the old days, chin in, chest out, shoulders back, and all that rigid posture, certainly wasn't functional and didn't look great. Another image that you could use, a woman can think, I'm a queen, I'm a ballet dancer. Whatever image, and you can play with them, find the image that has you feel the tallest, the most open, and for everybody it may be different. A man, may feel like I am the champion. Whatever it is, find the image that helps your body get that lift and that openness. Let's go to breathing. So here, you'll notice I wrote conscious breathing because breathing is something we do automatically without thinking. And yet, if you think of how you might breathe when you're under stress, or even when you're excited, because they react in the body similarly, your breathing tends to be more shallow and faster. And it's just automatic. But now if you become conscious of your breathing, what I suggest is that you now work to slow it down. We always recommend breathing in through the nose. That's what filters the air and warms it. And now this is the important thing. Learn to exhale slowly through pursed lips or making a hissing sound. So let's do that together. It would be, first of all, you align, all right, for the breathing in through the nose. And a slow exhalation, I'm going to do with a hissing sound. So that's not as long as I can exhale. But the reason that I emphasize the exhalation portion of breathing is because, first of all, it's the relaxation phase of a breath. All right, when the diaphragm relaxes, air comes out. The other reason is that by focusing on the exhalation, you are now hopefully getting rid of some of the stale air that tends to sit in the corner of the lungs. We call it residual air. And by exhaling more of this residual air, you've now made more room in your lungs for oxygenated air. So you could potentially, by doing this kind of breathing, you can potentially be reducing stress and increasing your respiratory capacity, which means more energy. For people with some degree of COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, this is the kind of breathing they have to learn. Most of these patients, as you probably know, you will often see them constantly gasping for air, and in the extreme, they may wind up with what's called a barrel chest. So the important thing for all of us, for stress reduction and for maximum oxygenation, I encourage you to learn this slow, prolonged exhalation. So now you've got good alignment, conscious breathing. Let's go to C. Centering, mind and body. The way I have 3 different meanings for it, but the main one we'll focus on, especially for stress reduction, is mind and body working together. How often has any one of us had an accident or an injury because our mind is one place and our body is doing something else? All right, I can raise my hand with that. So learning to slow down, and when you go down to how do you achieve it, I'm giving you a little tool there that has made a major difference in my life. It's a technique called start, change, stop. So any activity you're going to do, whether it's washing a dish, phone call, a major work project, when you start that thing, that job, that project, you identify that you've started it. You do whatever you're going to do. It may be as simple as just washing a dish. It doesn't have to be a major thing. You do what you're going to do. You put the dish in the dryer. You end the phone call, whatever it is, and you declare that you've stopped. It's complete. And when I learned about this, it was with the idea that you can't really effectively multitask. Something always tends to fall by the wayside. And I believe that they have found that you actually can get more done more efficiently and effectively using this start, change, stop strategy. So I hope you find it as useful as I have. And just to briefly mention, yeah, I just want to stay on centering just a moment. I also use centering to mean when we're doing carrying, lifting and carrying items. I think we all know that good body mechanics requires that we keep things close to our center of gravity. And when I'm teaching movement or balance, if you have seen Tai Chi in motion, you'll know that the movement tends to occur from the center of gravity. But for stress reduction, let's just work on mind and body working together. Okay, next item, slow motion. Again, I'm sure many of you have the problem of saying, oh my, I can't slow down. I've got too much to do, yada, yada, yada. And I tell the story of a patient that I had who was being retrained to walk. And I really needed this person to slow down so that he could gain more control and coordination over his movement. And he wasn't the first person to say to me, but I can't slow down. I've moved this way all my life. And I don't know where this came from, and feel free to laugh at me. But I said to this person, I want you to say after me exactly what I'm saying and the way that I'm saying it. Here we go. Slow motion. And I really drew it out. I mean, I'm giving you the short version and I'm not opening my mouth as wide as I do. And of course, it got laughs from my patient. It gets laughs from my, audiences when I present. And, and it takes a while for them to finally surrender to opening their mouths wide and just saying it. And what was amazing with this patient is that his walking actually slowed down. So I give that to you as a gift, as something to try on. You've got to be willing to be a little silly, play with it, and see if it helps you when things are getting a little hectic. First of all, of course, you'll align, you'll breathe, you'll center, and then you'll just say, slow motion. Okay, and all right, let's go to the basic moves. And here the basic moves, which I hope to get a video done for you at some point. Essentially, the basic moves are teaching people how to squat correctly. It's amazing how many people, including health professionals, who are supposedly taught good body mechanics, and still do not squat correctly. They let their knees shoot in front of their toes. So they have to learn how to let the hips ride back as they bend from the hips and knees, and the knees stay behind the toes. Then they have to learn about a wide base of support and being able to shift the weight, staying in a squatted position, being able to take steps, forward, backward, side, in a squatted position, and finally being able to step around in a circle in a squatted position. These are the moves we need for any safe bending and lifting and carrying, but especially for those of us who have to transfer patients. I venture that the majority of back injuries to healthcare professionals occur when they are attempting to transfer a patient. Okay, and let's go to the next one. All right, so key insights. As you probably all know, nursing homes suffer significant financial and staffing losses due to multiple factors, and that's not limited to physical injuries and mental and physical stress. Education and training related to maintaining physical and mental well-being can have a significant impact on decreasing these losses. The ABC system is simple to learn. It provides knowledge and strategies and techniques for improving both mental and physical conditioning. And that, of course, can lead to improved safety and function. And I don't say stress reduction, but by my experience and the feedback I've gotten from people who have learned their ABCs is that it can really make a difference in how they manage themselves, again, mentally and physically. And finally, I just like this quote. If any of you is familiar with the On Being Project, it's on PBS. No, it's not, it's NPR. But if I may, tending the body is tending the self. Tending the self is tending the community. Tending the community is tending the country. So it all begins with us, with us doing what we have to do to manage our well-being, especially if we have responsibility for managing the well-being of others. So next, imagine if all your personnel experience joy, well-being, and personal satisfaction at home and on the job. And that's an important point to make, that this system, my ABC system, is really relevant wherever you are. It's not just something you do on the job. So I say perhaps learning the ABC system will help. Thank you. And you have my contact information. Thank you. So I don't know if you have questions, comments.